Fake It Till You Fly It, The Life of a Teenage Conman. Before Frank Abagnale Jr. was 21 years old, he did things most people can only imagine in movies. He pretended to be a doctor, a lawyer, and a pilot. But Frank was not acting on a stage, this was his real life. With only his charm, quick thinking, and fake documents, he tricked banks, airlines, and even hospitals. He flew airplanes all over the world without a real pilot's license. He cashed millions of dollars in fake checks. It sounds like a story from a thriller, but it is a true story, Frank's own life. Why did Frank do this? Was he greedy? Was he a bad person? The answer is more complicated. Frank's story begins with pain. His parents divorced when he was very young. This broke his happy family and made him feel lost. Running away from home was not just about money or crime. It was about running from sadness, confusion, and the fear of being alone. Frank wanted to feel important. He wanted people to respect him. So he created new identities: a pilot, a lawyer, a doctor, people who had power and respect. But Frank's lies were not simple. They were clever and bold. He learned how to copy checks so well that banks believed them. He dressed like pilots and doctors and walked into places like he belonged. Everywhere he went, he made people believe his stories. His confidence was his greatest tool. But with every success, the danger grew. The FBI started chasing him. Carl Hanratty, a serious and dedicated FBI agent, made it his life's mission to catch Frank. What followed was a thrilling game of cat and mouse across countries, cities, and airports. This story is not only about crime and catching criminals. It is about identity, who we are when we hide behind masks. It is about loneliness, how Frank, despite his success, felt very alone inside. And it is about hope and change, how even someone who made many mistakes can find a new path and make things right. On Easy English Official, we don't just watch movies. We learn important lessons in simple English. Frank's story teaches us about courage, creativity, and the power of honesty. It shows us that mistakes do not define us forever. If we are willing to face the truth and change, we can build a better future. So please, watch until the end. Listen carefully. Frank's journey is full of surprises, lessons, and moments that will make you think. Whether you like stories about adventure, mystery, or human feelings, Catch Me If You Can has it all. Join us as we explore this amazing true story, step by step, in easy English. Chapter 1: The Divorce That Broke Everything. Frank Abagnale Jr. was just a young boy when his perfect world began to fall apart. His parents, who he thought would always be together, decided to separate. This was a huge shock for Frank. The home that once felt safe became filled with sadness and anger. Imagine a young boy watching his family break like a fragile glass. For Frank, it was more than just his parents' divorce. It was the moment his childhood ended and his troubles began. When families break, children often feel lost and scared. Frank was no different. He felt lonely and confused. The happy moments he remembered were replaced by fights and silence. Frank did not want to face this new reality. Instead, he ran away not just from his home, but from his feelings. Running away became his way to escape the pain inside. He left his small town and started a new life on the road. But Frank did not have money or a plan. He was just a boy, alone and scared. He had to learn fast how to survive. He quickly realized that being invisible was not the answer. To survive, he had to become someone else, someone important. This need to be important and respected pushed Frank to start lying. At first, these lies were small. But soon, they grew bigger and bolder. Frank's story shows us that sometimes, people make bad choices not because they want to, but because they are hurt. His life of fraud and crime did not begin with greed. It began with a broken heart. This chapter helps us understand the pain behind the mask, the reason why Frank ran away and why he pretended to be someone he was not. Watching this chapter, you will see how sadness can change a person's path. But you will also see how that path can lead to surprising places, both dark and bright. Stay with us until the end to learn not just about Frank's lies, but about the real feelings behind them. Because every story of trickery starts with a truth waiting to be told. Chapter 2: Becoming Someone Else, the First Lie. After running away from home, Frank was lost and afraid. He needed to find a new way to live. But with no money and no family, life was hard. Frank quickly learned that to survive, he had to be more than just a scared boy, he had to become someone important. He wanted respect and trust, things he felt were missing after his family broke apart. So, Frank made a bold decision: he would pretend to be a Pan Am pilot. Why a pilot? In the 1960s, pilots were admired and respected. They wore smart uniforms, traveled the world, and carried a special power. To Frank, wearing the pilot's uniform was like wearing a shield. It made him feel safe and strong. It made other people look at him with respect, and for the first time, Frank felt like he belonged somewhere. But becoming a pilot was not easy. Frank did not have the training, the money, or the license. So he started to lie and forge documents. He made fake pilot ID cards and forged Pan Am payroll checks. Every day, Frank practiced walking confidently, smiling at people, and talking like a pilot. His acting was so good that no one questioned him. People believed in him because he looked the part. This was Frank's first big lie, but it was more than a lie. It was a mask he wore to hide his fear and pain. Being a pilot gave Frank freedom. It allowed him to travel to new places, stay in nice hotels, and live a life of adventure. But behind the charm and the uniform was a lonely boy who just wanted to be seen. As viewers, you will see how Frank's small lie grows into something much bigger. You will learn how the need for respect can push people to make choices that seem impossible. And you will understand the power of belief, how when you believe in yourself, others will believe in you too. Watch closely until the end because this chapter shows the beginning of a thrilling journey, a journey where truth and lies mix, and where Frank's charm will both open doors and bring danger. This is the story of how a scared boy became the world's most famous conman. Chapter 3: The Sky Is Not the Limit, Flying for Free. Frank's life changed the moment he stepped onto an airplane in his pilot uniform. But it wasn't just about flying, it was about freedom, adventure, and living a dream many only imagine. With a smile, a fake ID, and forged checks in hand, Frank began to fly all over the world, traveling for free, living a life that many adults never get to experience. Airports, airplanes, fancy hotels, and first-class seats became his playground. People treated him like a hero, a young pilot trusted by everyone. But behind the glamour was a secret: Frank was using lies and trickery to live this life. Every time Frank flew, he was taking a huge risk. If one person saw through his act, everything would fall apart. Yet, his confidence and quick thinking saved him again and again. He learned to read people, to stay calm, and to answer questions without hesitation. His charm was his greatest weapon. Frank was not just pretending. He was becoming a master of disguise, and the sky became his stage. But it wasn't only the excitement that kept Frank going. Deep inside, the young boy was searching for something more than just money or travel. He wanted to prove something, that he could be more than the hurt child left behind by his parents' divorce. Each flight was a way to escape pain and to feel powerful and free. Viewers, as you watch this chapter, notice how Frank's lies grow bigger and his adventures more daring. You will feel the thrill of flying around the world without paying a dime, but also the tension, the fear of being caught at any moment. This chapter teaches us about courage, risk, and the cost of living a life built on illusion. Stay with us until the end because this story shows that the sky may seem unlimited, but every lie has limits. Frank's incredible journey is just beginning, a journey that will lead him to fame, danger, and lessons he never expected. Chapter 4: The FBI joins the chase. Meet Carl Hanratty. As Frank's daring adventures in the skies continued, a new player entered the story, a serious man named Carl Hanratty. Carl was not like anyone Frank had met before. He was a dedicated FBI agent whose job was to catch people like Frank. Carl didn't laugh, didn't joke, and was always focused. He worked day and night, chasing leads and following clues, determined to find the young conman who was tricking the world. Carl was not just any agent, he was smart, patient, and deeply committed to justice. He understood that Frank was clever, and this made the chase even more difficult. But Carl never gave up. For years, he tracked Frank across the globe, moving through airports, hotels, and cities where Frank had left his trail of forged checks and false identities. Carl's life was very different from Frank's. Where Frank lived in excitement and freedom, Carl lived in solitude and duty. He spent long hours alone, often missing his family and friends. But he believed that catching Frank was his mission, it was his purpose. Carl's determination was like a quiet storm, always growing stronger, always closing in. This chapter shows us two very different lives, one of a young man running from his past with lies and charm, and another of a man standing firm with rules and truth. Their worlds were about to collide in an epic game of cat and mouse. As you watch this part of the story, feel the tension build. Imagine the long nights Carl spent planning and waiting, the frustration of nearly catching Frank many times but losing him again. You will see how sometimes, the chase is more than just about catching a criminal, it's about understanding what drives each person. Stay with us until the end of the video because this chapter teaches us about persistence, justice, and the power of never giving up, even when the goal seems impossible. Carl's relentless pursuit will change both their lives forever. Chapter 5: Doctor, Lawyer, Liar. Frank Abagnale's story doesn't stop at flying planes. His cleverness and confidence push him even further into a world of lies, a world where he becomes not just a pilot, but a doctor and a lawyer. How did a teenager, barely out of his childhood, convince people to trust him with such powerful roles? It all began with a simple but powerful truth: people believe what they want to believe, especially if you show them confidence. Frank was a master of disguise and imagination. Wearing a white coat, he walked the hospital halls as Dr. Frank Abagnale. Nurses greeted him with respect, patients trusted him, and he moved freely through places where he had no right to be. He didn't have a medical degree, not even close, but his charm and poise made everyone believe he was the real deal. The truth was hidden behind his smile. Next, Frank stepped into the courtroom, pretending to be a young lawyer. He didn't study law, but he studied people and how to act the part. His sharp mind and quick thinking helped him bluff his way through difficult conversations. When asked questions he couldn't answer, he simply smiled and kept talking, never letting doubt settle. His story teaches us how powerful first impressions are, and how confidence can open doors, but also how dangerous it is to build a life on lies. Behind the glamour and excitement, there was a lonely boy trying to escape the pain of his broken family. Each new identity was a mask, a way to hide from fear and failure. But every mask makes it harder to be himself. This chapter shows us that no matter how clever we are at pretending, the truth will always catch up. As you watch this chapter, notice how Frank uses his mind as his greatest weapon. But also listen closely, beneath the laughter and the tricks, there is a lesson about honesty and the cost of deceit. Why does Frank keep risking everything? What does he really want? Stay with us until the end because this chapter is more than a story about lies, it's about understanding why people hide, and what happens when the truth finally comes out. You'll see that real strength isn't in pretending to be someone else, it's in facing who you really are. Chapter 6: Love and Lies, The Nurse and the Wedding. Even in the middle of a whirlwind of lies and deception, Franca Bagnale's story takes a deeply human turn, a story of love, hope, and the risk of opening one's heart when everything else feels like a game. This chapter is about Brenda, a young nurse who falls in love with Frank, the charming conman with $1 million smile and 1,000 secrets. Frank's life had been full of running away from his broken family, from the law, and from the truth. But when he meets Brenda, something changes. He begins to want more than just to fool people or live a thrilling life on the edge. He wants to belong. He wants to be loved for who he is. Or who he pretends to be. Brenda doesn't know Frank's full story. She sees the handsome, confident man who wears many uniforms, a man who talks smoothly and knows how to make her laugh. To her, Frank seems like a hero, a pilot, a lawyer, a man with a bright future. She dreams of a life with him, a simple happy ending. Frank even talks about marriage. He imagines a future where he doesn't have to hide behind lies anymore. But the truth is that his world is crumbling underneath. The FBI is closing in, led by the relentless agent Carl Hanratty, and Frank's carefully built castles of deception are about to fall. This chapter shows the painful conflict between who we want to be and who we really are. Frank's love for Brenda is real, but his lies threaten to destroy everything. It's a story about how love can be both a light in the darkness and a trap that reveals the truth. As you watch this chapter, think about how Frank's heart struggles between honesty and survival. How does it feel to love someone while hiding your real self? How do lies damage the people we care about the most? By the end of this chapter, you'll understand the cost of living a double life. You'll see that no matter how much you want to protect the people you love, the truth will always find a way out. This isn't just Frank's story, it's a lesson for all of us about trust, courage, and the power of being real. Watch until the end, because the story takes a dramatic turn here. Frank's choices will lead to heartbreak, but also to a new beginning. You won't want to miss the moments when love, lies, and fate collide. Chapter 7: Caught in France, the game ends. After years of running, hiding, and living a life built on lies, the thrilling chase finally comes to an end. Franca Bagnale, the young master of disguise and deception, is caught in a small, quiet town in France. This moment marks a turning point in the story, a mix of relief, fear, and the cold reality of consequences. Imagine Frank's life for a moment. He had been everywhere, flying across continents without paying, living like a millionaire without earning a single honest dollar. His confidence was unbreakable, and his mind was sharp. But even the smartest players have limits. After years of outsmarting the law, making fake checks, and adopting new identities, Frank's luck runs out. The day he is caught, Frank is tired. Not just physically, but emotionally. The long years of pretending, the constant fear of being discovered, and the loneliness of never being truly himself weigh heavily on him. France is far from home, and he feels the weight of being trapped in a world where freedom no longer exists. On the other side, Carl Hanratty, the FBI agent who had been chasing Frank relentlessly, finally closes the gap. Carl is serious, focused, and driven by a strong sense of justice. For years, Carl had been studying Frank's moves, predicting where he might appear next. And now, after a long pursuit, he's there to take Frank into custody. But this capture is more than just the end of a chase. It's the moment when Frank's double life must come to an end. The boy who flew planes he never piloted, who practiced law without a license, who signed checks with forged signatures, all must face the consequences of their actions. This chapter teaches us about the price of living a lie. No matter how clever or careful you are, the truth has a way of catching up. Frank's story is a powerful reminder that running away from problems only delays the inevitable. Eventually, you must stop, face reality, and accept responsibility. but it's also a moment of hope. Frank's capture is not the end of his story, it is the beginning of something new. A chance to turn his skills from harmful deception into helpful wisdom. As you watch this part, think about what it means to be caught not just by the law, but by life. How does it feel when the game you've been playing suddenly stops? What happens when you must face your mistakes? These are questions that go beyond Frank's story and touch all of us. Stay with us until the end, because this chapter sets the stage for transformation. Frank's journey from fugitive to a man who helps others avoid fraud is one of the most surprising and inspiring parts of this story. The game ends here, but the real story is just beginning. Chapter 8, From Prisoner to Partner, A Second Chance. After Frank Bagnale's capture in France and his time in prison, many might think his story ends there, locked away, forgotten, and lost to a life of crime. But Frank's journey takes an unexpected and powerful turn. This chapter is about hope, transformation, and the surprising power of second chances. When Frank is caught, the world sees him as a criminal, a clever conman who fooled banks, airlines, and governments. But the FBI sees something different. They see a young man with an extraordinary talent, the ability to understand fraud, deception, and how criminals think. This talent is rare and valuable. Instead of simply punishing Frank and throwing away the key, the FBI decides to use his skills in a new way. They offer him a chance to work with them, to help catch other fraudsters, criminals who use tricks and lies to steal money and harm people. This is a huge opportunity. Frank moves from being a prisoner to becoming a partner. Imagine how strange and difficult this must have been for Frank. From running from the law to working with the law, it was a complete change. But Frank embraces it. He understands that this is his chance to rebuild his life and use his talents for good. He begins teaching FBI agents and others about the tricks criminals use. His inside knowledge becomes a powerful tool to fight crime. This chapter teaches an important lesson: no matter how far you fall, there is always a chance to rise again. Mistakes don't have to define your whole life. If you are willing to learn and change, you can find new paths and new success. Frank's story reminds us that the future is not fixed, it's shaped by what we do now. Think about this for a moment. Have you ever felt stuck or lost? Like there is no way forward? Frank's story shows that transformation is possible even from the darkest places. Sometimes, our greatest strengths come from our hardest experiences. Frank's new role also shows the power of trust. The FBI took a risk by trusting a former criminal. But that trust changed Frank. It gave him a reason to live honestly and a purpose to use his abilities to protect others. Watching this chapter, ask yourself, what second chances have I been given? How can I use my skills and experiences, even the difficult ones, to help myself and others? This is more than just a story about crime and punishment. It's about redemption, growth, and the strength to change. Stay with us until the end of the video, because Frank's journey is far from over. His new life working with the FBI leads him to unexpected places and teaches lessons that can inspire anyone facing challenges. Chapter 9, Truth, Trust, and Redemption. After years of running, lying, and living in shadows, Frank Bagnale finally reaches a moment that changes everything, the moment he chooses truth. This chapter is about honesty, rebuilding trust, and the power of redemption, the chance to become a better person, no matter your past. Frank's story began with deception. He pretended to be a pilot, a doctor, and a lawyer, fooling banks and people all over the world. But behind every lie was a lonely young man searching for something real: respect, love, and a place to belong. The chase by the FBI, the arrests, and the prison time forced Frank to face his life honestly. Redemption means more than just stopping bad behavior. It means making amends. Saying sorry, fixing mistakes, and trying to do better. For Frank, This means working with the FBI, helping to catch other criminals, and using his knowledge to protect people instead of harming them. Trust is one of the hardest things to rebuild after it's broken. Frank had to prove himself again and again, not just with words but with actions. He showed he could be responsible and honest. Over time, people began to believe in him again. This slow process is a lesson for all of us. Trust takes time and effort to rebuild, but it is possible. Truth is the foundation of freedom. When Frank embraced the truth about who he was and what he had done, he found a new kind of freedom, not from the law, but from the lies and fear that once controlled him. Living truthfully gave him peace and opened new doors. What can we learn from Frank's journey of redemption? First, no one is perfect. Everyone makes mistakes. What matters most is what we do next. We can choose to hide from our problems, or we can face them bravely. We can choose to lie or to be honest. Every small choice builds the life we live. Second, redemption is possible for anyone. It's not just for famous people or movie characters. It's for every person who wants to change, who wants to be better. The path may be hard, but it's worth it. Frank's story gives hope that change is real. Finally, trust is a gift we give and receive. Frank's life shows us that when we build trust with others, we also build trust in ourselves. This trust helps us grow stronger, live happier, and connect with the people around us. Watching this chapter, think about your own life. Are there areas where you need to be more honest? Are there relationships that need rebuilding? What small steps can you take today toward truth and trust? Stay with us until the end of the video, because the story of Frank Bagnall is more than a tale of crime. It's a powerful lesson about human strength, hope, and the journey to become who we're meant to be. The wake-up call: it's time to become who you're meant to be. Now that you have heard Frank Bagnall's story, the highs and lows, the lies and truth, the chase and redemption, it's time for a wake-up call. This story is not just about a clever con man or a smart FBI agent. It is about you. About me. About all of us. Life gives us chances every day. We can choose to live honestly or with lies. We can choose to build trust or break it. We can choose to run away from problems or face them with courage. Frank's journey shows us that no matter where we start, no matter how many mistakes we make, we can change. We can grow. We can become better. This is your moment to stop making excuses. Stop blaming the past, your fears, or other people. The power to change your life is in your hands. You have the tools now, the knowledge and the lessons from Frank's story. But knowledge is nothing without action. You must act. Being rich is not just about money. It is about freedom. Freedom to live without fear. Freedom to make choices. Freedom to be happy and help others. True wealth begins inside you. It starts with your mindset, your habits, your courage to be honest and work hard. You will face challenges. Sometimes the path will be hard and slow. But remember, Frank's story teaches us, no one is perfect. Everyone stumbles. What matters is to keep going, to learn from mistakes, and never give up. As you move forward, think about the person you want to become. The life you want to live. Start small: one honest choice, one trusted relationship, one goal reached. Every step matters. Every choice builds your future. The world does not owe you success. It does not owe you wealth or happiness. But when you work for it, when you earn it with truth and trust, the world will respect you. And more importantly, you will respect yourself. So, are you ready? Ready to stop hiding? Ready to take responsibility? Ready to become who you were meant to be? This is your time. Thank you for watching Easy English Official. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep believing in yourself. The richest person is not the one with the most money, but the one who has learned to be free. Stay strong. Stay honest. And remember, your story is still being written.